Coming up on ITV News Central, we reveal our local hero.
Our 4 finalists have worked selflessly in the community and changed lives in the process. Tonight, we announce the winner of the Daily Mirror Pride of Britain Local Hero Awards.
That and the rest of the day's news, sport and weather at 6. Tonight, the policeman who thought he was going to be killed as he tried to stop a getaway car. The driver got 12 years. That's next. Hello, you're watching ITV News Central and these are tonight's top stories. The burglar who used his car to slam a police officer into a lamppost.
I really did think that was it. Fortunately, just avoided full impact, otherwise I wouldn't have been here.
Hundreds of job losses and plans to merge fire services. Another council announces cutbacks.
The Midlands goes cycling. We're at the country's biggest bike show.
And after hearing from all our 4 contenders, we reveal our local hero.
Good evening. A West Midlands police officer has told how he thought he was about to die as he was dragged along the road by a suspect's car before it crashed into a lamppost.
PC Peter McGinn suffered multiple injuries when he tried to stop burglar and disqualified driver Karl Anderson from escaping. Today, Anderson was jailed for 12 years. Andy Bevan reports.
PC Peter McGinn leaves court after seeing the man who almost killed him sent to prison. 50-year-old Karl Anderson already had a string of convictions for burglary and assault, but on June the 7th this year he was cornered by police officers in Oval Road in Erdington after a neighbour saw him stealing from a garden shed. As he attempted to drive away in his Honda car, PC McGinn opened the driver's door and tried to drag Anderson out. Anderson slammed the car into gear and reversed at speed across the road. PC McGinn clung to the door as Anderson slammed it into a lamppost. The door bent completely backwards and the lamppost missed PC McGinn by inches. He suffered serious injuries to his leg and pelvis, and this morning he told police colleagues he thought he was about to die.
I really did think that was it. Fortunately, just my own actions just avoided full impact, otherwise I wouldn't have been here.
PC McGinn has had to undergo extensive treatment for his injuries, including 2 operations, one of 6 hours and one of 4 hours. He's still off work from West Midlands Police and told the court in a statement that he feels depressed and that the incident has changed his life completely. Anderson managed to drive off after the incident but was arrested at his home in Aston the same night. He was initially charged with attempted murder, but at an earlier court hearing he pleaded guilty to causing grievous bodily harm with intent.
PC McGinn is extremely courageous. I'm very proud of him for his actions on the day, on the 7th of June. He's a dedicated professional officer. I wish him the very best. I hope a very speedy recovery and he can return to work with full health in the near future.
I didn't do anything different on the day to what I've done before, and I know a lot of officers do it on a daily basis, and unfortunately I was unlucky on that day.
Sentencing Anderson to 12 years in prison this morning, the judge told him that people who use violence against police officers can expect a long custodial sentence. Anderson was also banned from driving for 9 years. Andy Bevan, ITV News.
600 more job cuts and plans to merge 2 neighbouring fire and rescue services together. Just 2 of the ways one council plans to save millions of pounds.
Warwickshire County Council set out its vision today into how the local authority will again cut its costs. It says it must slash its budget by more than a quarter. That's more than £92 million. But unions have reacted angrily to the proposals. Chris Halpin reports.
In Warwick town centre today, it was business as usual. But inside the Shire Hall, councillors set out plans on how it needs to strip business back. More than 600 more jobs are at risk, some compulsory redundancies, and big changes on the way for council services.
I cannot rule out that we will be saying goodbye to some services. I can't say which. We have to have that conversation with the public. We are looking at all services. There is nothing that is untouched. We have only got an amount of money to spend, and we have to take a priority view on how we spend it.
Plans to merge the fire service with the Hereford and Worcestershire service are also back on the table. There were protests 4 years ago when cuts were made to firefighting. Warwick lost its fire station at the time. The fire budget of £20 million a year has since been protected, but now the council says a merger is needed to save money. The Fire Brigades Union told us it fears mergers mean fewer stations and fire engines. 1,400 people have already been made redundant here at the County Council, and if the councillors agree on the 627 more in the new year, that'll bring that figure up to 2,000. With £92 million potentially going from services across the county, people here in Warwick are worried the services they need will go.
I think they could do more for us and not say to us, well, we're trying to keep all children's facilities going, below the old people.
There is room for contraction without the services suffering.
As a family, you know, a mum, it's quite worrying. It affects everyone in different ways. So I think everyone's going to get affected somehow.
At this rate, by 2017, all of the councils, not just Warwickshire, but all of the councils in this region will be supplying no services at all. And I think people who pay their council tax have a right to ask, what am I paying for?
Councillors say that's exactly what it's going to do now. Over the next 2 months, there'll be public meetings asking which services people in the county value. Then in December, a more detailed plan will be revealed as to what will stay and what will have to go. Chris Halpin, ITV News, Warwick.
The father of missing Madeleine McCann says he's disappointed that a hearing in Portugal in the family's libel case against a former detective has been delayed. Jerry McCann flew to Lisbon in the hope of giving evidence against Gonçalo Amaral, the man in Portugal who initially led the investigation into Madeleine's disappearance. Today's hearing was postponed at a Lisbon court because the defence lawyer's son was ill.
We are where we are, so we'll look forward to the next date. The law's changed, and I think Kate and I know better than anyone else what we've experienced and what we've gone through, and the facts of the file and the damage that's been caused to search for Madeleine.
Today was the last day of trading for one of Leicester's most iconic high street stores. Dominos Toys has been in the city centre for 30 years but went into administration earlier this month.
The owners blame the growth in online sales and the high cost of parking for the decline in trade. Jane Hesketh reports.
2 years ago, this family-run business won the prestigious title of Best Independent Toy Store in the UK. Today, it's trying to sell as much of its stock as possible at cut price before closing its doors for good.
From what we've seen in the last 2 weeks, people like to come and shop, but they need a bit of encouragement, as in they don't want to feel that they're paying £5 or £6 to park the car. And the internet, you can do it all from home. Well, people like to get out, like to come and do the shopping, like to feel they can see the products around. We just need the council, I think, to help us with the parking, with making access easier, making it better with the buses.
Nothing put off today's shoppers, though, eager to snap up bargain toys.
I think it's fair to say that Domino's is something of an institution in Leicester. It's been here for nearly 30 years. Generations of children have spent their pocket money here. In fact, this 10p marble is one of their best sellers. But now, down to online competition, another independent name is leaving our high streets.
It's our love of the supermarket and the click of the mouse that sounded the death knell for Domino's.
I've been overwhelmed by people's comments saying, it's a very sad day for Domino's to see it closing. But you ask the question, well, when was the last time you actually came into the store and bought anything? So yeah, it's a very sad day for Leicester High Street. It's a very sad day for Domino's, very sad for the staff, and of course very sad for the family who set up the business 30 years ago.
Really sad, actually. It's been here since I was little. It was really good for arts and crafts and things like that. Sometimes if you didn't know where to go for something like that, then you'd know that they'd have it here.
My grandchildren love coming here. Spend ages going up and down, but gone now.
In the first half of this year, 18 shops a day were closing in the UK. That's 2 less than the previous year, but still means the makeup of the traditional high street is changing. Jane Hesketh, ITV News, Leicester.
Teachers at a school in Birmingham will refuse to teach a pupil from today after the child was allowed to return following an incident involving a knife.
Parents and teachers at the Saltley School are angry and concerned about safety at the school following the decision. Sally Lockwood reports.
A pupil here was involved in an incident with a knife earlier this year. They were originally expelled, but governors reversed that decision, allowing the child to return. A decision that hasn't been popular with teachers or many parents. A group of parents gathered outside the school today in protest at the decision. And teachers, also angered by the move, last week voted in favour of refusing to teach the pupil in question. They were members of the NASUWT union. And today, a representative of the GMB union arrived here to meet with their members to discuss safety concerns at the school.
They've also asked that they follow the same procedures of what the NASWT have taken, which is to be balloted on the issue of not teaching or supervising the child in question. And ultimately, if the child is not excluded from the school, then they will be possibly be prepared to take industrial action.
We understand the pupil didn't attend school today and the head teachers refused to comment on how he plans to handle the situation when the child returns, now that a seemingly growing number of teachers are refusing to teach, instruct or supervise the pupil in question.
Well, still to come here on ITV News Central, a look at what's on offer at one of the country's biggest cycling shows.
Who'll be named a local hero in the Daily Mirror Pride of Britain Awards.
And the weather is very settled at the moment. It's pretty good news because it's fairly good weather. This weekend, some fantastic fine weather to get out and about in. Join me later for all the details.
The Blood Service across England is looking for volunteers to take part in a new study to see how often donors can give blood. It's the first study of its kind in the world.
In total, they're looking for 50,000 people to take part. The research will be carried out at a blood donor centre in Birmingham, Stoke and Leicester. David Wood reports.
Jack gives blood 4 times a year and is keen to donate more often. As a healthy man in his 20s, it could be possible. And that's why he's taking part in this experiment.
If I ever got injured or had to go into hospital, I guess I'd want to get the blood. And so I think it's a bit hypocritical not to. So I think it's a good thing to do and it doesn't take much time and doesn't hurt.
He's one of thousands involved in the 2-year study, all designed to see if people can donate blood more often.
The more we can give, the better, because the more blood supply, the more chance we've got of people who need it getting the blood.
Until now, Jack's donated blood every 12 weeks. But as part of the study, the gap between sessions has been shortened by 2 weeks. And over the next 2 years, scientists will look at the effect that's had on him and thousands of other volunteers.
We'll be able to find out for each type of donor what is the best way they can give blood without suffering any side effects or coming to any harm. So we'll be able for some group of donors to say it's absolutely fine for you to give every 8 weeks. For the other donors, we may say perhaps give 2 or 3 times a year.
At the moment, men have to have a gap of 12 weeks between donating, and for women it's slightly longer at 16. It's thought the donor's age, weight and diet could determine whether they can give blood more frequently. This is the first study of its kind anywhere in the world, and already around 40,000 people have signed up. But with just 4% of the UK's population regularly donating blood, the organisers hope that once the results are back in around 2 years' time, it'll encourage more people to give blood.
Most people, when you speak to them, say they would like to give blood, but they just never get round to it. And therefore, this 4% of the population that do give blood, we rely on them so heavily. And we need to understand the impacts on them of giving blood, and if they are able to give blood more frequently.
And whatever the results, Jack intends to keep donating his pint as often as possible. David Wood, ITV News.
Now, the national and international news is a few moments away, and Julie Etchingham has the headlines tonight.
Harrowing evidence of the daily struggle of doctors working in serious hospitals, malnourished children, makeshift wards and medicines running dangerously low. We have a doctor's video diary of life on the front line. Scientists issue their bleakest warning on climate change and put the blame on mankind. And why the parking spy cars that catch out motorists in England could be banned. Join Alistair Stewart and me at 6:30.
Still to come on the programme, we reveal the local hero winner in the Daily Mirror Pride of Britain Awards.
First though, we've got Steve with a look ahead to the weekend sport. Steve.
Yes, indeed. Plus, actually, a look back to the past as well, actually. More on that to come. Also, Derby manager Nigel Clough talks about what it means to be taking his side to face the club he and his dad will always be connected with. Plus, Villa prepare to face the big spenders.
ITV Central Sports Report, sponsored by WeWantAnyCar.com, the Cash for Cars website.
We start with Aston Villa. They are looking to bounce back from midweek defeat when they take on Manchester City. If they can win, it'll be a first Premier League victory over the big spenders since January 2011.
They're playing ever so well at the minute. They've got a huge game in, I think, Wednesday against Bayern, which is huge for them, and if they win that, then they have 6 points, and you're not too far from qualifying in their first time. So whether they have one eye in that, I don't know. But they've got enough players to have 3 teams, let alone anything else. But the players have got. But in any given day, you can beat anybody. I think football's like that.
It certainly is. Now, the big game in the Championship this weekend sees Derby County head to Nottingham Forest. The two sides are not just local rivals, but also connected in perhaps more ways than any other two in the country. Forest manager Billy Davies has managed both sides, while county boss Nigel Clough was a Forest player. And then, of course, there's his dad, the late great Brian Clough, the man who led both clubs to unprecedented success. This match is more than just a derby. Derby County and Nottingham Forest. Fierce local rivals. Billy Davies, the Forest manager, had his greatest success in charge of Derby, taking them to the Premier League. Nigel Clough was one of Nottingham Forest's highest ever goal scorers, but with his playing days behind him, he took charge of Derby County. And the two managers have had their spats. Davies even once reported an incident involving Clough to the Football League. And then, of course, there's this man, Nigel's father, Brian. He led Derby to previously undreamt of success before going even further in charge of Nottingham Forest. So for Clough Jr., what does all the history, all the baggage of this clash mean?
I think it's got enough without all that. Just the rivalry between the two teams is enough. And everybody talks about all the stuff pre-match, but it's what happens in the 90 minutes that will count.
And what of the two managers, Clough and Davies? Goalkeeper Lee Grant has played under both at County.
You would say Billy Davies is a very intense character and a very, obviously a very thorough man as well. He's a manager that's had promotions on his CV, so his record certainly speaks for himself. I think, the fantastic thing our manager does here at the moment is he really tries to stay calm in certainly in situations as we're going to be faced with on Saturday, and that's great for the young squad that we've got. He gives us plenty of confidence to go out there and play the way that he wants us to play, with freedom, with creativity. I think it's shown at certain times, especially away from home this season.
Nigel Clough's Derby have made steady progress. So what are his thoughts of the rapid increase in form of Forest since Billy Davies' return?
No, we expected it. I think when the sort of money's been invested, that has been, and certain teams who have done similar who will be expected to be in the top 6 because of what they spent.
Of their last 4 meetings, Derby have won 3 and drawn 1. That'll give them confidence. But Nottingham Forest will have a point to prove, as another paragraph in the history of these two great clubs prepares to be written. Well, while I was looking through our archive for some of the footage there, I came across a news report from back in 1999. ITV News Central followed Brian Clough as he visited Derby County's Pride Park Stadium and spoke with the then manager Jim Smith. You can see the full report at itv.com/central, but here's a little taster.
Well, our Nigel and Simon this morning said, I don't know what you're doing in your interview, they said, but whatever you do, you take 5 minutes just to go and stand and look at it.
Yeah, that's it's really worth watching. It's fantastic. There's a real chat between Clough and Smith. It's really interesting. A little bit of other news for you. Walsall have signed former Birmingham and Coventry man Julian Gray after the 33-year-old returned to these shores following a spell in the Cypriot League with, bear with me, Nia Salmina Famagusta, I think. And Kidderminster play Aldershot tonight. Good luck to Kiddie in that one. Don't forget all the rest of the sport on the website, as always, itv.com/central, including that with Brian Clough, 1999, when you were, 20, Bob?
But I love a trawl through the old archives.
Yeah,
I
just saw it and I thought we've got to give people a chance to see it.
Yeah, thank you, Steve.
Now, thousands of cyclists are heading to the cycle show at the NEC in Birmingham this weekend. Among them, a Black Country MP who chairs the Parliamentary Cycle Group.
Yes, Ian Austin is calling for more dedicated cycle routes and safer road junctions. Our transport correspondent, Keith Wilkinson, has been taking a look at the show.
Never has there been such an explosion of interest in cycling. More and more people are taking to two wheels, not just for thrills, but to get to work. And one influential cycling MP has told the cycle show he wants pedal power to become a big issue for all politicians and town planners, with better access for bikes.
You're a Dudley MP, you cycle all over the place yourself, very keen cyclist. What do you want to see in your own patch?
Well, we want to see the government and local authorities working together to provide more facilities for cycling so that we can have better cycle routes, so that we can have safer junctions.
There's been an increase too in the number of people with disabilities who want to take up cycling, sometimes taking advantage of battery power or other modifications to meet their personal needs.
In about 10 years ago, my MS came to a point that I couldn't pedal anymore and get my right leg to move onto past the top dead centre, and I'd stopped cycling. I put my bike away and I didn't do anything for 2-3 years, and then I discovered modern electric bikes. I tried one and it's changed my life completely. It's allowed me to be independent, allowed them to have the freedom back, to get exercise.
My message is that everybody can cycle. Whether people see themselves as disabled or people have become slightly less mobile, or people are finding difficulties with fatigue, etc. Cycling is for everyone.
A company from Shifnal in Shropshire specialises in cycling for disabled riders.
The development in electric bikes at the moment, obviously that's enabling people to cycle for longer in their lives, and also enables those with sort of weaker muscles and sort of lower muscle tone to, I'm letting you do all the work here, to get that assistance, and it makes all the difference in terms of how far they can cycle or cycle at all.
Well, is it a fad that won't last, or are we to see even greater numbers of cyclists taking to the roads? Right now, it's a boom, and lots of people are joining in. Keith Wilkinson, ITV News.
All these unusual bikes, and I've got a really old-fashioned one. You know, one of those sit-up-and-beg bikes with the basket on the front.
Yeah,
Everyone laughs at me for that.
Actually, I'm thinking of digging out my old bike. It's in the back of the garage somewhere.
Hey, we should get a tandem.
It's not a penny farthing, by the way.
Now then, we've been looking forward to this because all this week we've been meeting our Daily Mirror Pride of Britain finalists, the 4 people recognised for their good deeds and selfless work in their local communities.
Well, our judges have had the very difficult task of choosing a winner, but we can now reveal it is Brian Spence.
We needed a drum roll there. Well, earlier we had the pleasure of breaking the news to Brian via Skype in South Africa. But before we surprised him, we started off by asking him about his charity work over in South Africa.
We popped out initially for a week's holiday, but then we visited friends of ours who are running a school for local children. but they're very concerned about babies that are not wanted. And these babies are thrown down the toilet or thrown on the rubbish heap. And they want to start a project for abandoned babies there. And we've already started to help them with this. The other part of the work that we've done is there is a factory that we help buy, and this factory feeds a lot of AIDS orphans. We've also got a sewing club going where it helps teach them how to sew for their family and look after clothing for their family.
Brilliant work. So changing lives in South Africa and, of course, let's not forget, here in the Midlands. Just remind us about the work that you do here.
In the Midlands, my wife and I set up a drug and alcohol rehab centre a few years ago, and we aimed this at men who are challenged with homelessness. So we've got a 12-bedded hostel, we've got 2 move-on houses, and the men come to us. They're from every walk of life. Some of them have been in prison 27 times. A lot of them are in desperate needs. And we help them get off their drugs and alcohol. And what we'd love to do is to see these guys restored to their families. We don't just want to get them off drugs and alcohol and then let them, just walk out to nothing. So what we've done is to organise some move-on houses where they can go to sort of a halfway stage. And from there, we don't just want to let them go and look for a job. So we're starting 2 businesses in the area under the auspices of the charity. And we're employing these guys in that business.
Well, Brian, all that work got you nominated for a Pride of Britain Local Hero Award, and we're delighted to tell you you've won.
Wow. Wow. Sure.
How do you feel about that, Brian?
Well, you put me by surprise. It's fantastic. Yeah.
Great news.
Yeah.
Well, we do hope that you're coming back to the UK for the star-studded, celebrity-packed ceremony in a few weeks' time.
Wow. Yes. Thank you very much.
That's great, isn't it?
What a brilliant reaction. He had no idea.
He did, indeed, yeah. Wonderful. And the Pride of Britain Awards are being held in London next month and will be shown right here on ITV. And I understand, in fact, that Brian's flying back on the very morning of that event.
He's going to have a very busy day. I hope he wins the biggie as well.
It would be terrific, wouldn't it?
Right then, well, it's almost the weekend, so should we find out what's in store with the weather forecast? I have a feeling it's going to be okay. Here's Joe Blythe with the forecast.
Hello, good evening. The weekend is here. We're in a very settled weather pattern at the moment, which is good news because the weather is good. Fine this weekend, dry, some nice sunshine around, and temperatures are warmer than average. We're stuck between 2 pressure systems, high pressure out to the east and low pressure to the west, and it's giving us some very settled weather for the next few days. One thing which could happen Saturday night into Sunday is the isobars will tighten up as the 2 pressure systems push together, and that will allow some blustery winds to develop, certainly on Sunday, but other than that, it's all very quiet. This evening and overnight, most places are going to continue to be dry and clear. We'll see a little bit of cloud bubbling up, 7 or 8 Celsius away from towns and cities, so by no means a chilly night. And then for tomorrow, well, a nice start to the day, any low cloud and mistiness tending to push away, brightening up with some nice sunny spells. Later on in the day, the southwest Midlands will see more cloud, and there's the very small risk, perhaps Herefordshire, Gloucestershire way, of a shower. But for the most part, it's dry and fine. 18 or 19 Celsius tomorrow, that's 66 Fahrenheit, so warmer than average for the time of year. Looking ahead, Sunday a very similar day, lots of dry, fine and warm weather around. A little bit more cloud on Monday, that's thanks to a front which is pushing across the region. A bit of a breakdown from Tuesday with the threat of a few showers, but other than that, nice and quiet. Have a good one.
Now that is a good forecast to look forward to, isn't it? Yeah. So it's time for a reminder of tonight's top stories here in the Midlands. A police officer says he thought he was about to die after being dragged along the road by a suspect's car before it crashed into a lamppost. Burglar Karl Anderson was today jailed for 12 years.
Unions have reacted angrily to proposals from Warwickshire County Council to cut hundreds of jobs and merge 2 neighbouring fire and rescue services together. It's part of plans to save £92 million from the budget.
And teachers at a school in Birmingham will refuse to teach a pupil from today after the child was allowed to return following an incident involving a knife.
And on our website, don't forget those fantastic pictures of Brian Clough. Plus, find out which 13th century castle has won a prestigious award.
And that's it from us. Have a really good weekend. From Lucy, from all the team, bye-bye.
Bye-bye.